unbroken. Sent in. McManaman dodging. McManaman scoring!
Yes, what's happening, everyone? Welcome back to GAA Fan TV. Tipperary are the 2019 All-Ireland champions. They have beaten Kilkenny by 14 points at Croke Park in the 2019 All-Ireland Senior Hurling Final. Yeah, huge congratulations first of all to Tipperary. They fully deserve it. They've had an unbelievable year. To think of where they were last year and to think of the job that Liam Sheedy has done since coming into Tipperary, huge congratulations to them. I do actually have family connections down in Thurles, Tipperary, so I was cheering for them coming into this game, and I do tend to, have a soft spot in many ways for Tipperary in terms of their in terms of them going for the All Ireland in hurling anyway. And yeah, lads, look, listen, it was a very interesting game. It was tough conditions. It was a very tricky game, in all elements, from the players, for the fans, for the match officials. It was tricky in many ways with those conditions and the fact that they were ever so changing. Of course, though, first of all, guys, if you are new around here, do hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought of the game. It was a very intriguing battle very early on in many ways between Tipperary and Kilkenny. Kilkenny seemed to be more up for it in the very early stages. They were winning the midfield battles. They were turning Tipperary over at times. And Tipperary's indiscipline seemed to be costing them, specifically within the first 20 minutes or so. Maybe the conditions had a part to play in that. Tipperary were struggling to deal with the likes of Colin Fennelly and TJ Reid. Killian Buckley was having quite a bright game as well. And certainly Tipperary were giving away too many frees, too many silly frees in those early stages, and that allowed TJ Reid and Kilkenny to very much build up momentum, boost confidence, and they were looking very bright in those early stages. The only worry, in that first half, and it's something that obviously came back to bite Kilkenny, was the fact that they were missing chances as well, and they weren't being as clinical enough in front of goal with their point taken, and in many ways they didn't quite utilise the fact that Tipperary were very slow starters in this game. Walter Welsh was very bright in the first half for Kilkenny. He was, bright in many ways, and he's, offloading in terms of midfield was very bright indeed. But unfortunately for Kilkenny, Tipperary, once they woke up, once they got going, this was very hard to contain. And of course, Kilkenny going down to 14 men as well. We'll get into that in just a moment. But some very bright players standing out in this game for Tipperary. John McGrath was absolutely outstanding. All the front line for Tipperary in many ways. Jason Ford, of course, outstanding in this match. Seamus Callanan got a goal. Of course, he's now scored in every championship game. He scored a goal in every championship game for Tipperary. I think in total he's hit 8-18 in the championship, and that's just unbelievable from the Tipperary captain. And of course Tipperary did get their goal. Kilkenny, one of their big weaknesses this year in my opinion has been their defence. When you do drive at this Kilkenny defence, they do leave spaces, and that is one weakness in many ways for Kilkenny. I thought Kilkenny done great against Wexford in terms of defence. Hugh Lawler and Joey Holden were outstanding in that game, but if you look back at the Cork game, when there was a lot of chances, there was a lot of opportunities for Cork to get more goals in that match, and certainly in this game, specifically in the second half when Kilkenny decided to push up a bit, it did allow a lot of spaces for Tipperary to get in behind that full back line. But of course a big factor when Tipperary did go in front, and a big changing point in this game, was the red card from Richie Hogan. It certainly was controversial in many ways. This obviously limited Kilkenny going forward in the second half. Of course, going by the letter of the law from the referee, if there is a strike to the face, it should in fact be a red card. So you can't really fault the referee in those regards. It did look a bit harsh, like it was a bit of a nick in many ways. It wasn't like a full, it wasn't like a punch to the face. It wasn't like a direct hit to the face. I would like to see more into that, to see the referee's interpretation of that law in many ways. If it's a direct hit to the face, does that quantify a red card? Is it any hit to the face, whether it's accidental or intentional? Because this didn't look entirely intentional in my ways. We'd probably have to look a bit more into it to really see what Richie Hogan, whether it was intentional or not. Only he will know that. But I think going off the laws that have been put in place now for challenges on the face, of course, it does quantify a red card. I've seen a lot of people on Twitter, and of course they were even saying on the Sunday game the fact that, you know, it's an All-Ireland final, you don't want to see these things happen. And yes, I do understand that, but just because it's an All-Ireland final, we shouldn't go away from these laws that have been put in place. Otherwise, they shouldn't be there whatsoever. So harsh in many ways. It definitely did change the game. Kilkenny didn't help themselves at all going into the second half. Their tactic of constantly hitting the ball long into Colin Fennelly and TJ Reid just didn't work. Tipperary's defence was absolutely outstanding. Barry Heffernan, Cathal Barra were unbelievable. In particular, Barry Heffernan. I mean, the amount of energy he had at times, being able to catch the ball, you know, from the ball coming in. He was just unbelievable in those regards, and specifically, you know, all over Tipperary's defence. The amount of fight that was put into the game to turn the ball over. I can't even remember too many times where Kilkenny won the ball in the air, and TJ Reid is probably probably the best player in the country at catching those type of long balls and converting them into either goals or frees, and Tipperary just done an unbelievable job at keeping him out, and of course keeping the likes of Colin Fennelly out as well. So look, listen, wonderful from Tipperary. They capitalised massively on the fact that Kilkenny were down to 14 men. We obviously seen Seamus Callanan then get a goal, and the spaces were really opening up. Seamus Callanan hit a wonderful ball then into Bubbles O'Dwyer, and he obviously went ahead and got himself a goal, and from that point Tipperary had a 9-point lead. And Kilkenny, the urgency wasn't there from Kilkenny. It never really looked like they were going to get back in the game. The tactics were just very stale in many ways, which is surprising from a manager like Brian Cody. It just looked like he ran out of ideas, and it looked like Kilkenny ran out of ideas as well. They just didn't quite have the options on the bench as well. Billy Ryan came on, but just didn't quite make a difference enough. And the subs that Tipperary brought on all scored, so that goes to show the difference in quality and in squads between these two sides. And Tipperary were just phenomenal all out in those closing stages. Jason Ford at times was absolutely fantastic with some of his point taking. You're looking at Niall O'Mara in the midfield, Noel McGrath. I mean, what a performance he had. Probably the man of the match in this game. He was just absolutely unbelievable in terms of winning the ball back, driving at the Kilkenny defence and picking out the right passes for that full forward line. Just unbelievable from Tipperary. And yeah, Tipperary, of course, they held on. They increased their lead even more in the closing stages. Kilkenny didn't even create any goal chances. They barely even created any chances in general. The only chances they did create, they went ahead and took points. So there seemed like a lack of urgency from Kilkenny in the closing stages. Perhaps the confidence was shook out of them when they went down to 14 men. This is still a young signing for Kilkenny in many ways. I don't think many people would have expected them to get to the All-Ireland final this year. So they certainly have exceeded expectations, and I've no doubts they will be back again next year. But certainly for Liam Sheedy and Tipperary, the future looks very bright for this Tipperary side. I mean, you're talking about Patrick Bonner-Marr, wasn't even in the team for Tipperary. You've still got him to come back next year. So, I mean, just a lot of bright things to look ahead for the future. And what a job Liam Sheedy's done, by the way, to come into that Tipperary side. 1 year ago they didn't even make it out of Munster, and to think now they made it to the Munster final. Okay, they lost that. That was their only minor hiccup in this whole season. And they've still come back and they've gone on to win the biggest prize of them all in the All-Ireland and the Liam McCarthy Cup. So yeah, lads, this is going to be the end of the video. Huge congratulations, of course, to Tipperary for winning that All-Ireland. Commiserations to Kilkenny, but I'm sure they will be back next year. And yeah, lads, do hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well, and I will catch you all next time. Good luck.